We seem to have a major problem with accepting mediocrity and allowing ourselves to be ripped off. In the old days, they'd have gone and found David and dragged him through the street tied to a horse, probably through manure. Maybe, instead of saying, well, you tried your best, it's time to be more honest and say things like, you ran an absolute scam, and now we're going to dunk you upside down in the River Severn until all the money falls out of your pockets, and we're going to attach a giant flag so you can't do this again in another town. Good afternoon and welcome to part 2 of my Monster Mayhem video. And for this one, we're kind of going all out because, like I said, I wasn't happy to just leave this one alone. So it made the BBC yesterday. An event billed as Monster Truck Mayhem has been criticised for having only one monster truck in its main display. A number of people who attended the show at Pitchcroft, Worcester on Sunday criticised the event and its organisation, describing it as horrendous and said it left traffic in the area gridlocked. Organiser David Bailey, come back to him in a minute, said other events in the city on Sunday affected the volume of traffic on surrounding roads. He said it was only advertised as a monster truck show, not monster trucks, plural. He stated, adding that they had all other things which were publicised, including stunt cars and car crushing. I didn't see any monster trucks at all, said Scott Pearsall, saying it was horrendous and he wanted to leave after an hour. Mr. Pearsall said he and his family had to abandon their car and walk to the event due to the traffic, and once there, they could not get near the display as it was overcrowded. The event on Sunday was promoted as including monster truck, singular, and stunt shows, monster truck, singular, rides, a Viking village, a circus workshop with a family ticket costing £20 along with a booking fee. About 1,400 people have joined a Facebook group called Victims of Monster Truck Mayhem, now up to 1,600. Leslie Phelps, who is part of the group and went to the show, told BBC Hereford and Worcester there should be refunds for all the disappointed customers. We thought we were going to see several big shiny trucks with giant wheels parked up in a big arena, and that would drive around and show off a bit, she said. Instead, she said the only elements of the show her family got to see were a small Viking reenactment and 2 boys on motorbikes jumping over ramps. Event organiser David Bailey said he thought people had not read the posters properly. People said we didn't have monster trucks. There was a delay with the truck as it needed to be repaired. It was only advertised as monster truck, not monster trucks, David Bailey said. Mr. Bailey said they did do a show and put on an extra one to make up for the delay at the start. So there you go, all you people that attended the event and said it was utter rubbish. David just says you should have read the posters properly. Responding to complaints about traffic, he said they had a plan in place and did not have an issue on Friday and Saturday before the truck event. They had a plan in place. Show us the plan, David. On Sunday, the cricket was on, the university had an event on and was sending people to park at our event. There was a road closed in town too, and it all had an impact on the roads, he added. David, if you had a plan, I'd love to see it, but I'm going to get onto that in a minute. So that is the BBC article. It's a little update on where we're at. There is more to this story, so I'm going to add a little bit more and we're going to go through it. So Monster Truck Mayhem was part of a number of connected events taking place at Worcester Racecourse this weekend. The monster trucks were not the main display. It was part of a series of entertainment shows planned throughout Sunday, which was all bolted onto the back of the Balloon Festival. So this never was a monster truck event, as we're about to see. The monster trucks were only booked to do 2 displays of 2 runs over 3 or 4 cars. So that's 1 truck, 2 short displays between 12 midday and 8 p.m. I'm going to come back to that in a minute because David Bailey obviously says that people didn't read the posters properly. So let's take a minute to look at the posters and the marketing. Here we go. Right, tell me what you think. I mean, that certainly looks to me like it's a monster truck show. Not, a couple of monster trucks on a little side show as part of the main event. It was marketed as a monster truck show. So as well as monster truck shows, you've got the Viking reenactment, stunt bike driving, but most of the stick is being aimed at the monster trucks. As I said, that's because of the monster truck marketing and the planning. So let's take a look at the monster trucks themselves. In the Worcester News article, David Bailey said it was always billed as a monster truck show, singular, and not a monster trucks show. He also said a delay was caused when they had to regas the monster truck when a shock absorber burst and the vehicle got stuck in traffic, and he blamed people for not using public transport due to the chaos on the roads. So basically, it's your fault that you didn't have a good time because you didn't understand the poster properly, and then you drove your car to a car park that he told you to go to because he already said that they had their own car park, which is what he said in the BBC article, because he was moaning that the people from the cricket were using his car park. So he's undone himself there. Anyway, let's dive into the monster trucks. In the Worcester News article, as I said, he always said it was billed as a one truck show. So what we need, because he's blamed you lot for not using public transport, is we need the council to release the information on what David said to them before the event and what plans the council had in place to help manage David's event, because in his role as event organiser, he should have done all that. Which is odd, considering we're hearing that the council had no idea that the monster truck event was going on. So after the internet furore on Monday, I actually picked up the phone and I called the company who provided the monster trucks, because the events management company, which is Showtime Events, had deleted their Facebook page on Monday morning. I guess that's normal practice after a successful event with so many happy customers. The event goes so well that you think, that's great, that was a great event, now delete all the evidence. The monster truck providers didn't delete their Facebook page, so they were getting quite a lot of sort of indirect internet hate. So I spoke to the team who run the trucks, and they are subcontractors and they're not part of the planning team itself. So the monster truck people are not part of Showtime Events. They were booked at relatively short notice to provide just the one truck after the original trucks, plural, couldn't make the event. So we got one monster truck doing car crushing and one monster truck doing visitor rides. So before we look at that, let's look at the marketing again, because you've got some stuff that went out beforehand. You've got this Worcester News article, which talks about the event being fantastic and uses a photo of a packed arena from Monster Jam in the USA. So that's there. Monster truck stadium looks flipping fantastic. Then on some other marketing that went out, we've got David's company saying the monster truck show includes Slingshot and Swamp Fiend vehicles. Now, Slingshot and Swamp Fiend are two other monster trucks. Obviously, neither of them were there on the day. So that corroborates the theory that those two trucks, Slingshot and Swamp Fiend, backed out because they weren't there. So hence the other company was contracted and they just had the two trucks, one monster truck for displays and one for driving people around in the back in a sort of cage thing in the pickup bed. So the two headline trucks aren't going to be in attendance, and the organisers know this in advance. So despite knowing that they've only got one monster truck for the display, listen to the advertising that's going out. And I think this has been written by AI, to be honest. Experience the ground-shaking excitement as monster trucks take centre stage, defying gravity with jaw-dropping stunts and mind-blowing stunts. Jaw-dropping jumps and mind-blowing stunts. All right. Now let's watch some of the actual footage from the day. Try to stay awake. Yeah, cool. So, we've got a few problems here, haven't we? Firstly, this isn't Monster Jam, right? I think people are expecting an American-style monster truck show. You know, multiple trucks, racing, jumping, crashing, and lots of action. Now, why on earth would they expect that? Well, it could be because that was what was implied in the marketing and the posters. So here we are, here's what we just saw. So it's been marketed as Monster Truck Mayhem, and what we got was one truck doing passenger rides and one truck that was booked for two short displays. So the photos on the Facebook group show the two trucks overheating and then catching fire, and then someone welding the truck in the middle of the event. So what's all that about? As I said, I spoke to the gent that runs the truck team, and it wasn't a welder. That was a backup battery charger. And regarding the overheating, the truck runs a 6.6 litre naturally aspirated V8. And if you're driving around full pelt in a small circle in 25-degree heat, the overheating is kind of inevitable. So he did say for the next event, which hopefully isn't with Showtime events because they're clearly scam artists, for the next event he's going to try and get some sort of fan to cool the engine down while they're swapping passengers on and off the truck. But that doesn't help the people who were there on the truck when it did overheat, and I hear that the queues were very long and it was very expensive. There are some questions around what happened when the vehicle overheated, because the truck has seats in the back and some in the front in the cab. And there was at least one comment I saw that indicated that some people were in the front and were stranded when it overheated. So I think it popped a coolant hose. It's not caught fire, but if you're sat in the cab and all this smoke or coolant or steam or whatever starts coming out the front, you're going to crap yourself, okay? That's going to be scary. And I have heard that what happened was the driver jumped out, leaving a 7-year-old and an adult stuck in the car, basically. But that's a bit of a moot point because that's all alleged. So, mechanical maladies aside, what did the monster truck team have to say about the day? Well, they then put out a statement, and he said to me, we were booked just to drive over some cars twice at 2 different points throughout the day. So 2 small displays between midday and 8 p.m. So there's your monster truck mayhem. 1 truck driving over some cars twice. I don't blame these guys. They're getting a lot of stick, and even they say they went above and beyond, doing more runs over the cars and a general display to try to make up for it, because basically it's been oversold and under-delivered, and they're there then on the spot feeling a bit awkward about the whole thing. They had an issue with a shock absorber on one truck and then overheating with the other. As I said, it was 25 degrees and the 6.6 litre V8 wasn't actually managing to get up enough speed to cool the engine effectively. The radiators weren't doing their job. So despite the overheating and the bad press, some people are saying they had a great ride on the monster truck, but the queue was ridiculous, as we'll see in a moment. So that's the monster trucks. So let's finish this section of a video with a comment from Chloe. The show was delayed due to issues with the trucks breaking down and overheating. So many kids stood in the heat waiting while the commentator had no clue what was going on and just kept telling us to keep our kids hydrated while we waited. Then the main event, as advertised, the ground-shaking excitement and monster trucks taking centre stage and the death-defying gravity and jaw-dropping jumps and mind-blowing stunts. I mean, watching a truck attempt to crush 5 cars 3 times really blew my mind. Not once did I see it defy gravity or perform a jaw-dropping jump. Although I did see a truck overheat, a complete waste of time and money, and some very disappointed kids. Sophie simply says, whoa, if that was more than agreed, I'd hate to see what your bare minimum show looks like. Now, I've got some problems with this. Sorry for the long video. Here in the UK, because we are not really a monster trucking nation. We're not like the USA. We're not like the Americans. We're more into health and safety than edge of your seat action. And having watched the monster trucks at Truckfest last year, I can honestly say that I left underwhelmed. The problem here is sort of a bigger subject for another day, but there's no money in monster trucks in the UK. There's no sponsorship. There's no corporate TV deals. There's no glamorous events. So it's just private owners who are passionate about their trucks trying to make a buck by running these sort of events. So that's why they're not going to hit the cars hard and they're not going to take risks, because any mechanical issues that they have on the day will wipe out any profit that they made by attending. The trucks are very expensive to run, and clearly the event organisers are tight. Or sometimes scam artists, which is why you didn't see 2 trucks ripping around the racecourse for 8 hours straight. They did the bit that they were paid to do while trying to inflict minimal damage on the vehicles. That's why monster truck shows are boring. Basically, this is not Monster Jam, which would be fine if it wasn't marketed as such. The Monster Truck Show was a sideshow, one aspect of a bigger event, and it never should have been given its own name. It never should have been promoted as a monster truck show. And those of you that went know that you drove for miles and hours because you thought you were going to a monster truck show, because that's what the poster said and that's what the AI generated descriptions of the event said prior to your arrival. Hilariously, around about 1 p.m. on Monday, so yesterday, the organisers changed the name of their official Facebook group from Monster Truck Mayhem to just Monster Mayhem, as if they were trying to hide the truck aspect from the day. But the people who attended won't forget that in a hurry. Now, on to some general issues with the event itself, and I'm going to let some of the comments do the talking. This is an interesting one. Another angle to the day that people haven't really mentioned is the safety of the equipment. My daughter went on a large inflatable slide and unfortunately came off with large friction burns. Now, normally I wouldn't be too bothered as kids have accidents. However, it seems to be a known problem. The slide owner's sign even states that kids had to use sacks to go down the slide, but they didn't provide them. They do, however, provide burns gel, as the first aider here was suggesting. So there's a video of someone coming off the slide with a friction burn being told by a first aider that they should put burns gel on it. But this goes against the NHS advice for burns treatment. I'm not happy that they're encouraging kids to use the equipment, knowing they're going to come off with an injury. So I've blurred the first aider's face here in the video. It's not his fault, and it's clear, and he's clearly not impressed with the safety either. It was very telling that before we even got inside the tent, they said, "Have you been on the slide?" So they know that this slide is causing injuries. She finishes up by saying, "Did anyone else's kids get friction burns?" Cue 25 comments and many photos of children with nasty looking burn injuries to their knees, elbows, back, feet, and I'm not going to put those in the video because there's all manner of permission issues in sharing that sort of stuff online, but needless to say, it was more than a handful and they didn't look good. I would not have been happy if that was my child that came down a slide that was meant to use a sack with a friction burn that was bad enough that you needed to go see the first aider. Great event. Anyone smell a class action lawsuit? So we've got a monster truck show with no monster trucks, children getting injured on the rides, and it seems the local police and ambulance services are completely unaware of the event. Comment. Council and police weren't aware of the event. They only knew about the balloons, not that other event that was on yesterday. I reported it to them and they only had 3 ambulances running and 9 police on duty. They had to call in more when they found out. That's why all the road closures, etc. had balloon festival signs. They just tagged on the end of that to fill their pockets. This goes along with my theory that the council had no idea that the event was going ahead at all. And I've asked them and I'm waiting for a response. So let's take a little look now at a voice note that I was sent by my friend James, who went to the event, because then he can give you a full picture as to what it was actually like on the day.
Obviously we saw the traffic at Lower Wick and at St John's, but when we were crossing all the bridges, the traffic was standstill. So at the cricket ground, traffic standstill. Getting across into town, traffic standstill. As you come up to Cattle Market, standstill. We were walking faster and making more progress than the cars were. We got in and straight away you're hit with ice cream, food, fairground rides, none of the, what's going on, no display or no talking, nobody advertising, right, we've got this arena where this is happening, this arena where that's happening, just nothing. First monster truck show was a fail when he was doing one of his stunts. He landed really funny and it broke something on the truck, so it was that was it. But it was like 6, 8, probably 10 deep in some areas of people just trying to hustle to get to see a non-existent monster truck that wasn't running. So we just kind of knocked it on the head and I said to him, look, we've got another monster truck show at 7:30. We've got another bike show a little bit later. What we'll have to do is we'll just have to come an hour before the show, sit down right at the front, get prime location and not do nothing. So carried on walking around, absolute chaos, just too many people in kind of a small place. I think they must have had about 20 ice cream vans there, but every ice cream van had 30, 40 deep, if not more. I mean, we queued up to get an ice cream after walking around all of them, and I think we queued for nearly 40 minutes to get to the front, to be told no cones, you can only have a tub. I think it was £5 a pop, so 10 quid. Before we'd even found anywhere to sit down, we were literally drinking it, asking all day, can I have Haribo, because there was these 2 Haribo stands. £2.99 for 100 grams, and I guarantee you any money, them weighing scales that they had were dodgy, because I was seeing people do a couple of sweets, like maybe 10, and they were paying nearly 15 quid for like 10 sweets. It's just absolute scandalous. There was, as I say, one monster truck plus the passenger monster truck that was a 4-hour wait to get on. To be fair, there was no Monster Mayhem at all.
So now let's just finish up with some comments, and we are getting to the end of this video. The Vikings was the best part of the whole day. They were approachable and happy to talk, and there was no additional cost associated with it. The rest of it was rubbish and a con. Comment number 2. We were excited to go and see the trucks, only to be extremely disappointed. We had our 2 boys with us, 2 and 3 years old, who was super excited and monster truck mad, only to be told by our 3-year-old that it was boring and it wasn't a monster truck, it was just a big truck. And I couldn't have agreed with him more. So there you go, even a 3-year-old has worked out that this is not a monster truck show. The event was massively oversold to the point it was dangerous and overcrowded. We've seen people walking through the racecourse straight in and bypassing the ticket scanners. People were packed in like sardines trying to see the show, and grown adults had absolutely no care or consideration for children. And at one point a fat was literally stood on my toddler's foot while shoving us out the way to try and get himself a better view, and we weren't even at the front. The amount of people smoking amongst the crowds was disgusting, and if you feel the need to smoke, go elsewhere, not right next to all the families. I actually agree with this. Little to no shade was provided apart from a small tent in the centre, and even that was like a sauna, with the amount of people trying to seek relief from the sun. Walking around trying to find shade for the little ones, we saw families sitting under lorry trailers, behind toilets, and shadowing anywhere they could find. It wouldn't surprise me if there are some very ill children and adults with sunstroke, specifically told not to bring shelters, but none were provided. Make that make sense. The food vans were massively overpriced for what was given and had sold out of drinks after a few hours. And I've left myself a note there saying, Geoff, drop in some photos of the food, like those £5 chips, and mention all the comments about the sweets being an absolute con. So James, my friend who was there, reckons the scales were messed with and I've heard so many stories about people buying pick and mix and then the guy being like, oh, that's 37 quid. And them turning around and saying, that's ridiculous, I'm not paying that. And then the guy just being really rude and saying, well, screw you then. Comment number 3, I like the fact that there were 12 toilets for 17,000 people, followed by comment number 4, make that 19,000. That's just tickets sold online, not all those who turned up and paid at the gate. So someone's made a ton of money out of this event. David Bailey, I'd like to talk to you. Now for some emails. Hi Geoff, I booked these tickets back in February and my children have been so excited and counting down the days. A journey that should have taken us 50 minutes from West Bromwich took 2 hours. There were so many road closures which we were not advised about, which again is in line with the fact that the council had no idea this event was going ahead. Or was that an illegal event? Possibly. Allegedly. We parked in the town centre with additional parking costs and decided to walk down. When we arrived at the venue, we had to wait for an additional 45 minutes in the hot sun to get in. No one was managing the line. There were people podging and pushing into the line from all different directions, and when we eventually got into the event there were too many people and it was very disorganised. The main event was the monster truck show. Here's another person that has clearly read the marketing wrong. The main event was the monster truck show, which we were told had been cancelled due to a vehicle breakdown. Then, to try and make our children smile, we said we'd go on the fair. I nearly passed out when I was charged £5 per child per ride. £20 for 2 bottles of Oasis, a chocolate milkshake and the smallest ice cream the world had ever seen. All in all, the day was overpriced and a massive disappointment. Sounds like a scam to me. I was there. New comment. 3 issues. 1. Parking was an absolute shit show, mainly due to clueless organisation that was letting 1 car into the car park every 30 seconds due to a gate system to let pedestrians also access the event at the same time. This didn't take long to back up into Worcester city centre and cause carnage. The actual car park was relatively empty. I'm guessing most people just gave up trying to get in. 2. Exorbitant prices, and I say that as someone who attended the F1 at Silverstone last year. 3. Trucks had technical issues. Now, I'm in no way an expert on monster truck maintenance, but having attended previous events with them, they tend to break. So maybe consider having a spare truck or 2 on standby like the other events I've attended. So, thank you very much for watching 20 minutes of me rambling about this terrible event. I've got a conclusion that I've written out, and that's probably the only important bit. There we have it. A badly organised, wrongfully promoted event that's been likened to the Willy Wonka world fiasco. Run by a chap who doesn't care, blames the public for interpreting his marketing in the exact way that the marketing was intended to be interpreted, who can't take responsibility and will absolutely do the same thing again. It'll be interesting to see how Doncaster and Northampton balloon festivals pan out. Anyway, let me finish up this rather long chat with this superb comment on yesterday's video about the state of things in the UK. We seem to have a major problem with accepting mediocrity and allowing ourselves to be ripped off. In the old days, they'd have gone and found David and dragged him through the street tied to a horse, probably through manure. But instead, what will happen is a wave of social media anger and then some local news stories jumping on the bandwagon for internet clicks, and then nothing. We'll just all wait for it to happen again. And I've no doubt that the Victims of Monster Truck Mayhem Facebook group won't be the only post-event based venting platform that pops up this year. Hashtag there's one coming up in Hereford. It seems to me that more and more in this post-COVID world, it's become okay for companies and people to overpromise and underdeliver. And maybe this, as someone pointed out in a comment, is because of all the well done, you tried your best mollycoddling that now goes on in schooling and with parenting. We've watched our politicians cock everything up repeatedly, make an entire mess of the nation, and then we say, oh, don't worry, maybe the next clown will run the circus slightly better, and we all go back to our lives. Maybe, instead of saying, well, you tried your best, it's time to be more honest and say things like, you ran an absolute scam, and now we're going to dunk you upside down in the River Severn until all the money falls out of your pockets, and we're going to attach a giant flag so you can't do this again in another town. But what do I know? I'm just a dude that hates seeing families being ripped off, and I couldn't in good conscience myself conduct myself in the sort of way that many of these event organisers seem to. It might not seem like a big deal, but the amount of upset, pain and misery that this event caused means for me it was worthy of more than just a, hey, look at what all these people are saying on social media sort of video. And that's the kind of journalism that the local newspaper wanted to run today, because they contacted me and asked why I made the video, and they wanted to know what I thought about all the comments in the group and what that meant about British attitudes to humour. To which I said, that's not the article you want to write. Ask the council where the event plan was, ask the highways department where the traffic plan was, and ask the emergency services where the safety plan was, and then ask where his next events are and why his Facebook page was deleted on Monday morning. But that would be real journalism, and that seems to be dead. So let's conclude the video with this final comment. It was really bad. The gridlock was just the start of it. The whole event was shambolic. I spent the evening making memes and laughing about it. I can't understand how they would defend it given the way the event was marketed. The thing that annoys me most is not the cost of it all. It's how I wasted an afternoon of time and money with my family on this event. My wife and I work hard and we work long hours to be missold. This event stopped us spending time with our kids at an event that was utterly crap. Thank you very much for watching, and before you book the next event for your family, do your research, because it might be cheaper just to pick a beautiful place on a map and get yourself a picnic and go and sit by a river. Thank you very much for watching.